Hi, thanks for joining us. My name is Bill Garrett. I'm the Scout Executive and CEO of the Hawk Mountain Council. Today we're going to start our journey in learning about how we prepare young people for life. And joining me today is Dave Patti from the Pennsylvania Business Council, President and CEO, also a lifelong Scout and a very great supporter of Scouting. So thanks for joining us today. We appreciate it.
Thanks for your invitation.
Yeah, today we want to really talk about how you got involved in Scouting. So
I started in a traditional Cub Pack in age 8, third grade. Back then was the way it was done. So this is before the dark ages, long before Tiger Cubs and everything. Okay. But West Wyomissing, I think it was Pack 414, and 3 years there. Of course, Webelos on up to Troop 473 West Lawn. What was traditional in the 20th century anyway.
Well, okay. So it's cool that you remember Pack 414 and you remember where you met, and you made a lot of good memories. And often when I talk to you and hear you speak about Scouting, you talk about going camping at Camp Shikellamy, wasn't it?
So, yeah, where I started was Camp Shikellamy. Now 473 also, through the church that we were affiliated with, Advent Lutheran Church in West Lawn, had our own camp as well. So the troop was a very camping-oriented troop. And even our Cub Pack was outdoor oriented. In Webelos we did one overnight, and in fact my father was, in fact he was a den mother. He in fact would want me to tell you that he's still up, or if he were still alive, would still be upset that he wasn't allowed to go on the den mother's retreat.
Okay.
But there were an insufficient number of den mothers, and so he, in a reverse role kind of way, was for our second year. When we were bear cubs, he was our den mother, and then stayed on as the Webelo leader, and transitioned and became an assistant scoutmaster. But as Webelos, he and other fathers saw to it too that we were doing some camping.
It is so important for our young people to have parents involved in Scouting, and I'm glad to hear that you had that time with your dad and I assume your mom and family members, and that makes great memories. So if you had to tell me what is the best Scouting memory that you made, you talked about camping in the outdoors, and we're much more than that, but what is the best Scouting memory you recall from your youth?
Oh, wow. I don't know that I could pick one, because I have different Scout memories that are special in different ways. Now, for camping related outdoor, Philmont. I was part of the Hawk Mountain Council trip to Philmont in 1976. And that's a trip of a lifetime. I encourage every Scout that possibly can do it to do it, and leaders to go as well. So that entire trip, I mean, there are certain vignettes that you have. We spent our last night on the Tooth of Time. So watching the sun go down from the Tooth of Time is an amazing thing that you'll never forget.
No, absolutely.
But we also climbed. We were in the North Country, so we climbed Baldy, 12,441 feet above sea level, and we started climbing because our guide had suggested this at about 2 in the morning, putting on clothing as we went, of course, because it got colder. This is in July, but we're going through snow fields, and laid down on the rocks as the sun was coming up through the clouds. So, we could see Pikes Peak to the north and other mountain peaks peeking through the clouds, where the clouds were lower than the mountain peaks. That's a view that you don't always forget. But there are memories from the Klondike Derby here in Berks to some humorous times at first aid meets, and to helping with the coordination of consolidating the camps into what we now know as Blue Mountain or Hawk Mountain Reservation, but was then Blue Mountain. Yeah.
Okay. So Philmont is a special place. I've been there, not as a youth, but as an adult, and it's a little bit harder as you get older to climb those peaks. But once you're there and you see it, it's ingrained in your memory forever. Is that a fair statement?
Absolutely. And I went back. I took my parents there before our son was born. My wife and I did a trip in the Southwest U.S. with my parents, and I wanted my father to see it. His health wouldn't have allowed him to do much walking or anything else, and camp wasn't open. But we drove to base camp, at least stood there, showed him the Tooth of Time and everything, and that was an important thing to do.
Yeah, great place. So let's shift gears a little bit. So that we all have great Scouting memories as a youth, and we can probably talk about that for hours and hours. But every time I call you or our council calls you, you're glad to help in any way possible. So tell our folks that are watching today and listening to us, why do you remain involved in Scouting today?
Sure. Well, a lot of what I do in my career, which is to work with CEOs on public policy and communicating about life in Pennsylvania, the business community in Pennsylvania, I can trace to things I did in scouting. In fact, so, sitting here doing a video interview with you, my first merit badge, circa 1975, was the communications merit badge.
Okay.
And I've been doing that ever since. So there were things I learned on the way in the Trail to Eagle that I have used career-wise, and starting with communications and doing those skills. But I worked with CEOs, Marlin Miller from Arrow International, one of the founders there with Jerry Holleran, Paul Rodale before he became the CEO of Cartech. Those were the adult leaders of Hog Mountain Council who had wanted some input from one of the boys, or somebody to speak on their behalf, and I somehow made it into that process. And I was working with them on the design of the camp and going to council meetings, and it would be, we'll have him lead the pledge to the flag, but I was sitting next to Paul Rodale, who was teaching me how to read financial sheets.
Right.
Today I work with CEOs on financial things all the time. So things that I did in 1975, 76, 77 with Scouts as a teenager, I'm still doing today, and I wonder sometimes, would I be able to do it today had I not done that?
No, it's a great experience to work with folks like that, and I can only imagine in the 70s, in 80s, working with folks like Marlon Miller and Paul Rodale. I work with them a lot today, and every time I have a 5-minute conversation with them, I learn something new. Right. But I couldn't imagine doing that as a 17-year-old. So that's special, and that's a great point. I want our folks to know that we're all about high adventure and having fun and being in the outdoors. But scouting is a lot more than that. It's 125 different merit badges, 125 different vocations that you can learn about through your journey to scouting, and I'm glad to hear that that's helped you. So, if you had the ability to tell young people and their families why they should join scouting and the outcomes that it would produce, what would be your message to them?
Sure. Well, I think one of the things that young people are going to learn about when they go looking for employment for the first time is the employers want what we call soft skills. That you're going to show up for work on time, that you're going to be dependable, that you can work well with others. That's scouting. And there are other things for young people to also teach those skills, but scouting for more than 100 years has been teaching people the value of teamwork, of honesty, of integrity, of hard work, trustworthiness. You go through the laws, and those are pretty good laws for life no matter what you're doing, who you are, where you live.
Correct. Right.
And they are outstanding ways to form the way a young person thinks. And they are not restricted to a certain location. They are not restricted by class, by race, by ethnicity. Those are good rules for everybody, and they work for everybody to give you an opportunity at the American dream, to give you an opportunity to higher education, to give you an opportunity to be what's inside you and to pull that out. And I think scouting does it. It challenges, whether it's a Philmont challenge or a local challenge, it pulls the best out of those young people.
It helps them meet their potential is the way I talk about it. And I have 2 girls, so I won't be a scout leader until they're venturing age. But I always tell the girls that whether they're in soccer or scouting or Girl Scouts or Awana, is you have to do your best. Right. Every day you have to do your best, and if you do that, you're going to be successful. And that sounds like what scouting has helped you do.
No, I think the tenets of scouting prepare you for no matter what you want to do. And that doesn't mean just those who make Eagle. My own son decided that scouting wasn't for him after 4 years of it or so, and he was a first class. I was disappointed in his choice, but I know that even today, things that I see him do as a college student reflect still that basic formation, the things he learned as a Cub Scout, the things he learned as a Boy Scout, and those values.
Yeah, you can be a great young man and not be an Eagle Scout. I tell people that every day. Some folks are just in scouting for bits and pieces of it. Right. Some want that Eagle Scout. But if you remain involved in scouting for a few years, you're going to get something out of it.
And frankly, Eagle Scout has to be a lot more than just the merit badges and the service project. It is a way of life. I don't think it's the same today, but there was a time in America where if somebody wanted to describe a person who they thought very highly of, whether it was literally true or not, they'd say, well, he's an Eagle Scout.
Right.
And if it was literally true, there was a reverence to that. It meant something in American culture. And it's funny, of course, I've spent 30 years in politics in various forms. Certainly, when I entered, and to a lesser degree today, but that was a euphemism for, well, that's somebody you don't mess with, they're always going to do it by the book.
Right.
You know,
Right.
Don't approach him about some project like that. That's a little iffy or a little bit in the gray area. He's an Eagle Scout. You know, and sometimes it meant literally, sometimes figuratively, but it carried that connotation that they're going to do the right thing.
They're going to do the right thing,
important.
and not always a popular thing, but
Not
the
always
right
a popular
thing.
thing.
That's
the right
important.
thing.
So thanks so much for joining us. I think our time's up, and as you watch our show and hear our stories, we're going to continue this journey to find out what scouting does for young people, and really it's preparing them for life. So thanks so much for your time today.
Glad to be here.
Check in again next week for another edition on our Hawk Mountain Scout Council Prepared for Life series. For more information, visit our website, hmc-bsa.org, or call us at 610-926-3406. You can also find us on the People Chronicles YouTube channel.